a proposal for a global soil convention. As we all know, the food security has become a global issue that has been discussed in many forums all around the world. Of course, recent global environmental law and soil science has encouraged the introduction of an instrument that will take care of soils. In some countries, not many, they have something put in place, but really it's a huge handicap on environmental law. And so today, we are going to hear something about what is being done, and of course, about this proposal to analyze the context of managing soil ecosystems, improve food security, address soil contamination and soil sealing, and promote biological diversity conservation and soil carbon sequestration. These challenges will be explained through the concepts behind and key features of the draft protocol that will be presented today, and that has been prepared by IUCN Soil Specialist Group and discussed and has been a framework to support the United Nations Convention on the Certification and on its 10-year strategy and framework. We're going to explore the incorporation also of this very interesting concept of zero net land degradation targets, both as the basis for a protocol to the UNCCD as well as an aspect of an international soil convention. And we are going to start, we have the privilege of having today with us Mr. Luke Nakaja. He is the Executive Director of the United Nations Convention on the Certification, and his presentation will be the outcome of Rio+20 for land and soil, exploring the new need for an instrument to support the UNCCD. Please, Mr. Nakaja, the soil, well, the soil also, but the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, good morning. I'm really pleased to be here, and I would like to pay tribute to Jan for his work and support in bringing us together here. And I would like to start with by inviting us to speak some Korean here. We are in Jeju, right? This means, and I like it very much, body and soil are not two, they are one. It means, and let me read it in Korean, Shinto Bulyi. And I like it very much because that's what we need, the world, and especially the international community, to understand that we must care to the soil as much as we care to our body. I think Korea has walked the talk by bringing, for instance, their land cover from below 16% in the early 60s to nowadays close to 70%. And they have done that in the early days of the 60s when they were very, very poor country. And the investment they have then made have really shown their resilience today. And so land and soil in the context of sustainable development, I used to say that soil, unfortunately, is the too often forgotten issue, even link in the debate. Let me bring you a perspective. I'm quite sure I will be now here preaching to the converted, but at least the preachers here agree on what type of message we take to the rest of the IUCN community and stakeholders here. Number one, when we talk about land and soil, let us bear in mind that 70% of poverty is rural. This should actually call on us how we really effectively address poverty. Because 70% of the poor in the world, they directly depend on the soil. That's where they have the capacity to improve their living, and that's also where they can build their resilience, including climate change. Regarding food security, when you consider that 70% of the poor are rural, but also 80% of hunger is rural. And it's precisely those who are, may I say, smallholder farmers that are also those entrenched into endemic hunger. If we're serious about the MDGs on hunger, are we really reaching out to those people? And when you think about 2030, where we know that we have to improve or increase production of food by 50%, and this will, when I refer to the FAO assessment, will require an additional 120 million hectares the size of South Africa. Where are we going to find those new cropland? When you consider that in the past, 70 to 80% of expansion of cropland has been made out of deforestation. Now, energy, by 2030, we must increase production by plus 45%. And we know to what extent energy production is taking the heavy toll on land and soil and may generate further degradation and deforestation. Water in agriculture is the biggest consumer of water, 70%. And in 2030, we might need to match an additional plus 30% of water demand. How are we going to match it? Now, when you consider all those things, and you just put it in connection with, for instance, last year, at the Bonn, what is called June climate change talks in Bonn. And last year in June, they were discussing on the agenda for the negotiation. And on the table, they have water, and they also have agriculture and soil. They finally ended up picking water and they dropped soil. Now, knowing the science behind how we can get more water for production of my biomass, you wonder what is the rationale behind picking water and dropping soil. One could say this is quite a kind of schizophrenic decision. When you pick water, and the only way you can manage to have more water available and build resilience and adaptation to climate change regarding water is by better managing land and soil. And they pick water and they drop soil. They finally ended up picking agriculture in Durban. So now when you consider the importance of land and soil, and now you consider here the assessment released in the state of soil and land of the world, the report released last year by FAO, you can see that 25% of the land is highly degraded and 36% is moderately degraded versus only 10% improving. This is absolutely unsustainable. And you continue that trend when you put it in the context that 3% of the global land is made of arable land. At this trend of degradation, we can't build a sustainable world. Now, I'm the secretary of a convention that cares for the dry land of the world. And it is the convention that is available to bring all the international community to attend to dry land and attend to land degradation in caring for one specific aspect of vulnerability to degradation, that is aridity and water scarcity. But we often forget why we are focusing on today's dry land. Actually, it's not today's dry land, it's the dry land of yesterday. Because what we have at hand as assessment of the dry land is something that has been done at the end of the 80s for the meeting of 1992. And we keep on saying that we have 41% of the whole landmass of planet Earth made of dry land. And if we include the natural desert. But we might be wrong, because IPCC said that between 1970 and 2000, the area stricken by drought has doubled. And now let us look at the potential of drought worldwide during this century. The more rain it is, the more dry it's likely to be or to become. by 2030, by 2060, and by the end of the century. It is a potential risk, but that's what it is. And as we are witnessing all this, are we really wise just focusing on degradation in the dryland? Or should we rather look at degradation of all type of land and attend to it in a very, may I say, holistic and comprehensive manner? I think that's what we should do, because desertification, land degradation, and drought are driving up the future we want. That has been our message to Rio. It is driving up the future we want, and unless we really holistically and comprehensively address land degradation, we will be running after the issue of desertification. And we will not match the challenges of food security, of water scarcity, of climate change adaptation and mitigation and resilience building. If you put all this together, of course, the time is up to have an instrument that will bring the whole world, the international community, and all stakeholders to address soil in a consistent manner. You know about those numbers. The one that is really dear to my heart is that every year in the so-called dryland, 12 million of hectares of productive land are lost due to drought and desertification. That's the size of the country where I come from Benin. Imagine my country, every year one of my country, or the size of it, is just taken away, forgotten, lost for one for all. Or 7 billion tons of fertile soil gone, one for all. We can't continue with that. Now, when you consider the potential, including for the abatement of carbon, that one third of it is in addressing soundly terrestrial ecosystem management. You then consider differently the imperative of having an instrument that will bring all stakeholders to really manage soil in a very specific manner, but that will be also reflected in all the other issues that we have. As a matter of fact, when you look at history, too often civilization has disappeared because they have mismanaged the soil, including Rome, including, we have fully, for many examples. What has happened can still happen again. We shouldn't fool ourselves by believing that now that we believe that food comes from the grocery, you ask the kids today, where do you have the food from? They will say, oh, you go to the grocery, you get food. And that's the mainstream of thought nowadays, but we engage wrong in that regard. So as the UN Secretary General put it, we got from Rio some fundamental principle and renewed commitment and guidance for action. Let me highlight here the outcome of Rio on land and soil. The declaration, as far as I'm concerned, is quite a paradigm shift on how we should attend to land and soil. It calls for land degradation neutrality. That's a new word, a new concept. But in fact, it is a concept that is calling for a comprehensive way of managing soil in all ecosystems. I will invite you to check the paragraph 205 to 205 to 209, not 206, 205 to 209 of the declaration titled "The Future We Want," and you will see the provision on land and soil that are very specific to degradation and restoration. The declaration of Rio + 20 acknowledges that desertification, land degradation, and drought are global challenges that we have to strive, they say, to build a land degradation neutral world. I was really expecting the declaration to really commit for a land degradation neutral world, but we came that close to it, but due to some consideration, they came that close to it but still decided to strike. Well, I take strike because personally, though I know the UN jargon that you have commit and then below commit you have strike. But personally, how can you strive? Meaning, how can you do all effort to reach a given goal without not being committed to it? So let us take strive and bring the world to really commit to it under the process for setting certain development goals. The declaration recognizes UNCCD as the mechanism for action and recall that scientific knowledge is key in both planning and implementation, and identify the need for information sharing, including on soil and climate. So, if you consider this, do we need an instrument or not? We do not have yet a real target. The target we have proposed and table at U+20 was a target of zero net land degradation, meaning that we should bring the whole world to consider focusing or agreeing, starting from ecosystem level, community level, national level, and global level, and setting targets for restoration. That will help really to make sense of the imperative of restoring degraded land as the option for food security, the option for climate change adaptation and mitigation and resilience building, and the option for biodiversity conservation. By the way, as I was discussing with Braulio, my colleague of CBD in Rio,